Okay, the first practice link on NS1C is adding and subtracting integers word problems. Okay, so let's take a look at this problem. It says Kenny took off in his helicopter from 1,000 feet above sea level. Okay, so here's sea level, and he's 1,000 feet above. Here's Kenny. He later landed at a location 1,000 meters above sea level. Okay, so over here is some place where Kenny landed. What was the change in Kenny's altitude? Okay, so he was at 1,000 over here, and then he landed at 1,000. What was the change? Well, he didn't go up or down at all from where he was to where he landed. So his change in altitude would be 0. All right, the next one. The leaderboard at the Stafford Golf Tournament shows that Ellen's score is -6 and Nathan's score is -7. How many more strokes did Ellen take than Nathan? Okay, let's draw a number line for this one. We're at -6 and -7. So what's the distance between those two? It's just 1. So how many more strokes did he take? Just 1. Okay, one more of these. Tony got to compete in the bonus round of a game show, scoring 300 points on the science questions and 500 points on the travel questions. What was his score for the bonus round? Okay, so he had 300 points in the bonus round. On science, he had 500 points in the bonus round. On travel, together, gives us a total of 800 points. Won't be a -800, it would be a +800 because it's points scored. All right, let's go on to the next one. All right, adding, we need to write our answer as a decimal. We have a mixed number, 2 9/10, and then we have a decimal, -9.2. We need to write our answer as a decimal. So we're gonna wanna convert this mixed number into a decimal. Okay, so we need to change this fraction into a decimal. Now you might already know that 9/10 is 0.9. If you don't, easiest way to change a fraction to a decimal, you take the top number divided by the bottom number. So we can divide 9 divided by 10. 10 goes into 9 0 times. Multiply, we get 0. Subtract, we get 9. Bring down a 0. 10 goes into 90 9 times. 9 times 10 is 90. Subtract, we get 0. So 9/10 is 0.9, so we can add that to the 2, that becomes 2.9. Here we have signs that are unlike. We have a positive and a negative, and we should know that simplifies to a -9.2. So 2.9 minus 9.2. All right, we have a positive 2.9, a negative 9.2, so we need to subtract those and keep the sign of the bigger number. So we'll line up our decimals and subtract. We're gonna have to borrow. 12 minus 9 is 3. Put our decimal in place. 8 minus 2 is 6. And the sign of the bigger number is 9.2 and its sign is negative. So our answer becomes -6.3. So we'll plug that in, -6.3. Good. We'll try another one like that. This time it says, write your answer as a proper fraction, whole number, or mixed number. Okay? So we have 8 plus -3 and 1/2. First thing we'll do is simplify these signs here. We have a positive and a negative, which simplify, they're unlike, so they simplify to a negative, so that becomes 8 minus 3.5. Okay? I would probably draw a number line for this one then. Since they're pretty easy numbers, I'll start at 8, I'll subtract 3.5, so go 1, 2, 3.5, and I can see if I count 1, 2, 3, 4, that brings me to 4.5. And I need to have, I can't write it as a decimal, I need to write it as a mixed number, so it'll be 4 and 1/2. Good. All right, write our answer as a decimal again. This one we don't have any signs to worry about. They're both positive. So all we need to do is line up our decimals and add them together. 7 and 4 is 11. 9 and 2 and 1 is 12. Bring our decimal down. It's going to be 12.1. Okay, we have absolute value to find distance. It says, which of the following expressions represent the distance between E and F? Okay, so we're trying to find the distance between E and F. All right, whenever we find distance, we need to subtract. Okay, we're going to subtract. We have to make sure our signs are in the right place, okay? And if we use absolute value, which these two show, we could subtract in either order. We could do 1/3 minus -4/3, or we could do -4/3 minus 1/3. Either way will work. So let's check. This has -1/3. Well, I already can see that's not gonna work because this is not a -1/3. It's a +1/3. So that one already doesn't work. The second one, we have a +1/3, which is good. Then we have to subtract, which they did, a -4/3. But they don't have a -4/3. They're subtracting a +4/3. So that one doesn't work either. It's got to be none of the above then, the last one. And that's correct. All right, let's try another one. Which of the following expressions represent the distance between 5/2 and 4 7/8 on a number line? Okay, again, when we're finding distance between two numbers, we always subtract them and keep the original signs. Okay, so this is a positive number and this is a positive number, so we're just going to subtract. When I look at the first option, it has a -5/2, which our 5/2 is not negative. So I already know that one doesn't work. On the second one, we have a +5/2, which is good. Then we're subtracting, and then we have a -4 7/8. But this is not a -4 7/8. So that one doesn't work either. So it must be none of the above. Okay? All right, same thing. We're finding the distance between them. Now we have a -3/4 and a -2/10 or 0.2. So as I look at my first option, it has a +3/4. Doesn't have the same sign, so it's not going to work. The second one has a -3/4, which is exactly what I need. It's subtracting, which we have to subtract, find the distance between 2 points. And then it has a -0.2, which is what this is, a -0.2. So that one will work. It matches what we need. Again. One more. This doesn't have any numbers. It's just letters. But we can still find the distance between them just by subtracting. Okay? So we have A minus B, absolute value. That works. Gives us the distance between. Or we can switch those around. B minus A, we can still find the distance between, because of the absolute value is going to always keep the answer positive, so it will always give us the distance between, no matter which order we do them in. All right. Okay, we need to put these in order from least to greatest. All right, so if I look at these, A is close to -4, B is a little past -1, and C is a little to the right of -1. So the smallest number, these three all have absolute value around them, so they're all going to be positive. A, however, does not have absolute value, and on the number line, A is approximately a -4, so that's going to be a negative number. The only one that's a negative number. So that will automatically be the smallest. Then the rest of these are really a way to find the distance between the 2 points. So this is telling us the distance between A and C. This one's telling us the distance between A and B. This is telling us the distance between B and C. So the next one in order would be the shortest distance. So which 2 points have the shortest distance? Is it A and B, B and C, or A and C? And you can tell just by looking at the number line that from B to C is going to be the next shortest distance. Then the next one in line would be from A to B, and then the longest distance is from A to C. So we have them in order from least to greatest. Okay, on this problem, it says which of the following expressions is equal to the rectangle's area? So in order to find the area of a rectangle, you need to do length times width. So one of these expressions would give us length times width. We need to figure out which one that would be. So first, let's identify what numbers all these letters are. So J, the x-coordinate, is -6. K, the y-coordinate, is 4. Down here, N is -6. O is -4. Right here, L is the x-coordinate, it's going to be 6. M, the y-coordinate, is 4. Over here, P, the x-coordinate, is 6. Q, the y-coordinate, is -4. And we now know what numbers all those ordered pairs are. Okay? Now we can plug those numbers in here and figure out which one would give us the area of the rectangle. Okay, you can probably already see from the graph that the length of the rectangle goes from -6 to 6, so that's 12. So the length this way is 12. The height goes from 4 to -4, so that's 8. 12 times 8 would be 96. So the area of the rectangle is 96. So we're looking for which one of these will give us 96. So let's try the first one, J minus L. So J is -6, L is 6, absolute value. These are like, so we add them together, 6 plus 6 is 12. Keep the original sign, which is negative, but then the absolute value makes that positive, so it ends up being 12. The next absolute value, M, is 4. Q is -4, so we're going to subtract a -4. Here I have two like signs become a positive, so that actually turns into 4 plus 4, which is 8. Absolute value of 8 is still 8. Now look at that, the first one worked. I have 12 times 8, which we know is 96, and that's going to give us the area of the rectangle. Now maybe just to make sure that we did it right, we could check the second one. Okay, but we're pretty sure that it's the first one. So let's do J minus M. J is -6, and that's absolute value. M is 4. So negative 6 minus 4, they're like, so we add them. 6 plus 4 is 10. Keep the original sign, which is negative, so negative 10. But the absolute value makes it positive, so it turns out to be a positive 10. But we don't have a side length of positive 10, so we know the second one doesn't work. So we are right, it's the first one, and that is correct. All right, we have another graph problem where we need to find the area of the rectangle. So again, we want to figure out the value of each one of these letters. Okay, so over here, A, the x-coordinate is negative 7, B is 5. Over here, C, the x-coordinate is positive 7, and D is 5. Down here, E is negative 7, F is negative 7. Over here, G is positive 7, and H is negative 7. Okay, so in order to find the area of the rectangle, we need to find the length and the width. So we need to figure out which letters will do that for us. So this first one says A minus E. So if I do A minus E, we will get negative 7 minus a negative 7, and that's absolute value. Two negatives next to each other becomes a positive, so that actually turns into negative 7 plus 7. Negative 7 plus 7 is 0. Absolute value of 0 is 0. So that doesn't give us a side length, so that doesn't work. We know that one's not right. Okay, so we'll erase that. Let's try the next one, A minus C. Now we can see from the graph that the length of the rectangle goes from negative 7 to positive 7. So that would be a length of 14. The height goes from negative 7 to positive 5. So that would be a length of 12. The actual area, we'd multiply those two together to get the area of the rectangle. So we need to get side lengths of 14 and 12 in order to find the area. So let's go on to the next one. A minus C, let's see if that gives us our 12 or our 14. So A minus C would be absolute value of negative 7 minus 7. They're like, so we add them together. 7 plus 7 is 14. Keep the sign of the original. It's a negative 14. Absolute value turns that into a positive 14. Okay, so that one is working so far. It gave us our 14. Let's see if the second half will give us the 12 that we need. So B minus F. B is 5. F is negative 7. So we have the absolute value of 5 minus negative 7. Two negatives next to each other makes a positive 7, so that becomes 5 plus 7. Absolute value, 5 plus 7 is 12. Absolute value is 12. So that gave us our two side lengths. So we know that one will work. Okay, now let's check the last one just to make sure we didn't make a mistake. It has A minus B. If I do A minus B, we have negative 7 minus 5. Let's try that. Absolute value of negative 7 minus 5. Okay, they're like, so we add them together. It's 12. Keep the original sign, which is negative 12. Absolute value makes it a positive 12. Okay, so that did give us our side length of 12. C minus D, let's try that next. See if the second half of it will give us 14. C minus D, we're going to have 7 minus 5. 7 minus 5 is 2. Absolute value of 2 is 2. That did not give us the 14 that we need, so it's not the last one. It must be the second one. Check it, and it is the second one. That's correct. Okay. Let's try one more from this link. It says, which of the following equations must be true when the distance between x and y is 6? Okay, must it be true that the distance from x and y times the distance of x and y is equal to 36? Whenever you see we're subtracting those two and doing absolute value, that's giving us the distance. Okay, so in place of x minus y, absolute value, we can put 6. And in place of x minus y, absolute value, we can put 6. So is it true that 6 times 6 is 36? Yeah, that's true. So that first one works. The second one, is it true that the distance from x and y squared is 6? Well, again, the distance from x and y is 6. If we square that, that equals 36. So does it equal 6? No. And then none of the above. Well, the first one works, so it's not none of the above. So it's just going to be the first. Okay? So the key to this problem is remembering when you see the x minus y and the absolute value, that just means the distance between those 2 points, as was stated in the question. All right? And let's move on to the last one. Okay, so let's see if we went through these steps correctly. First thing I see are 2 negatives next to each other. They're like, so that turns into a positive, which we can see they did right there. And then they brought down the 7. That all looks correct. Next thing they did, looks like they did 5 minus 7 and said that's 2. But we know 5 is positive, 7 is negative. They're unlike, so we should subtract. 7 minus 5 is 2, and keep the sign of the bigger number. 7 is the bigger number, and the sign is negative, so that should actually be a negative 2 right there. But they said positive 2. So it looks like step 2 is where our mistake is, and that's correct. It wasn't step 2. All right. Which of the following expressions are equivalent to this right here? Well, again, when I take a look at this, first thing I see are 2 signs right next to each other. They're both negatives, they're like, so I would simplify that to negative 8 plus 1 minus 5. Okay, so would that be the same as negative 8 minus 1 minus 5? Nope, because that should be a plus. This one matches what I have exactly. So I do know that one will work, and none of the above. No, the second one works, so it's not going to be